Alrighty, so here's a quick video of me explaining how I set up the car on the circuit Spa for the game Assetto Corsa Competizione. I'm in the McLaren 720S right now, and I was just going to do a quick overview of kind of showcasing my knowledge of how different setups affect different aspects of the car, and give an example of how I would set up for this particular race. So for the particular race we're doing, there's a lot of straightaways. There's not too many turns where it's really sharp slowing down, where you have to almost come to a stop. So for this, I would like to have something that is has a lot more top speed potential rather than acceleration out of a corner, because I mean, you can see the whole top half of the circuit is pretty much one big straight line, and then there's really just a few turns where you have to slow down quite a bit. So for doing that, I want to run a setup that is this more aggressive setup, because if you look, these are the tire pressures. The tire pressures are a little bit lower, so tires are a little bit softer, so you can go through there. Camber is a little bit into the negatives, just because that allows you to have better grip at high speeds. And then if you look on aero, so my aerodynamics, my rear wing is set to 7, so I have a pretty aggressive downforce on the rear wing and not really much on the front wing, just because that's going to allow me to reach a top speed really quick, or that's going to allow me to have a really high top speed, but still have stability in the corners because I have a lot of downforce on the rear wing. So I'm going to kind of demonstrate why this setup works and give kind of a little showcase of why I picked a certain setup. So you have to keep your speed below 50 in the pit lane. So it's going to take me a minute to get out there, but I'm going to keep explaining. So Spa, there's a lot of straightaways and there's not too many really sharp turns. So it allows you, running this setup will allow you to have high speeds and not lose any time on straightaways, while you're also not having no stability in the corners and spinning out of the corners. So we're about to the end of the pit lane here, and we'll be free to accelerate as much as I want in just a moment. And freedom. So you can see, getting up even from almost a standstill, because this is normally a way longer straight, so you can get up to around 260, 270 kilometers per hour. But I'm not going to get quite up that high just because I came in the pit lane, so I wasn't carrying a lot of extra speed. But you can see I have good stability in these corners right now, but I'm not losing out on top speed because I'm prioritizing accelerating out of the corner rather than accelerating from the get-go. Because I'd rather have a higher top speed than a better acceleration, because you kind of have to pick one of the two. You can have a good medium mix, but you can't really have really high acceleration and really high top speed. You kind of have to prioritize one or the other, so I'm prioritizing top speed because of how this track is set up. A lot of straightaways and a lot of pretty forgiving corners that aren't super sharp. Like you can see, this technically is counting as a turn one. I was able to take that almost a continuous full tilt without having to really apply any brakes or let off the gas at all. You could also see coming up here to these really tight corners like this, I'm able to have good stability going through it and not have a risk of losing traction and spinning out. So I'll also demonstrate how I'm doing straightaways up here, because there is one that's coming up that I can kind of show what I mean about prioritizing that top speed rather than prioritizing acceleration up corner. Same straightaway where I got to not near as high as I'm about to get to, you'll see how much higher that's up at 253. Yep. And slowing down into this corner. But you can see you are able to attack pretty good in the corner, but also have that high top speed, which allows you to really push still, but not lose out on cornering speed as well. So this is the McLaren 720S. This is they call it the Shadow Project, and it's their GT racing car, but there's a lot of different ways you could set it up. You could set it up with really high downforce for traveling a lot of corners. You could set it up for really high top speed like I have it right now. It's prioritizing much on corners. But you can see there, if you do push too hard, you will lose a little bit of traction. So that's the only risk of running the setup as opposed to a setup that's really well balanced. You can push really hard on straightaways, but if you push a little bit too hard in the corners, you can lose a little bit of grip like I just did there. So that's kind of a perfect showcase of it can't be completely perfect, but you can prioritize certain things you would rather prioritize in a race because of the way the track is set up. You just have to be very conscientious of how to do it. And I wasn't being very conscientious there as I was explaining this and talking, so I wasn't focusing too much on how I was coming in at the speed I was coming in at. So that's my fault, but realistically, the driver in a race isn't talking about that the entire time. So there's kind of some lap runs explained with my setup. So I'm gonna return to the garage, and yeah, that's my demonstration of how I would set this car up.